Welcome to the What's Important Now broadcast. In America today, we are witnessing a cultural shift. This is the show devoted to the battle for the soul of our country. Join our host, Tom Sears, as he explains the issues of our day and join the fight to bring values and morality back. Let's join Tom now as he shares what's important now.
And welcome inside this edition of What's Important Now. I'm Tom Sears. Thanks for being a part of our program. You can email us at what'simportantnowradio@gmail.com, what'simportantnowradio@gmail.com. Our mailing address is 8901 Good Hope Pike, Lost Creek, West Virginia, 26385. Well, I want to talk to you today about something that is it's very near and dear to my heart. It's something that I have spent a considerable amount of time thinking about. You know, in my two passions, my Christian faith, my love for this country, and the history of our country. And I go back to a time when I was in high school. Now, I had a great high school history teacher. And I can remember many of the lessons that he taught, but there's one that has always stood out in my mind. I remember him teaching us about the 8 cycles of civilization, or the cycles of civilization that had 8 stages. And he taught us that every civilization in history, in the history of the world, every civilization would go through these stages or through this cycle. And I can remember all the way back then trying to discern what stage America would have been in. Now, I attended high school in the late 90s, and the warning signs could be seen even then. And I want to talk about those stages today. Now, I do this for informational purposes and honestly as a warning. Because as my teacher told us 1,000 times at least, those who fail to learn the lessons of history are doomed to repeat them. You know, I've been very clear on this program. I've been honest about my feelings. Honest and clear on where I think America is today. And I fear and honestly feel very certain that we are at a point of no return. But let me also be very clear, and I say this just in case someone out there is not hearing me correctly. There are, in my opinion, difficult times in front of us. But they being the difficult times, will not prevent what God is going to do in us and through us. And so I guess what I mean is that yes, difficult times are going to come, but they will actually position us into a place where God can once again do what he wants to do in us. That's my point. Now, back to the cycles of civilization, I feel very strongly that America is following the exact cycle of civilizations, and we can take a look at the fall of the Roman Empire. And the truth is that if we do, and we recognize that America is following these cycles of civilization, then we better be concerned that we may face the same destructive end. Now, does it mean that it happens in my lifetime or in your lifetime? I have no idea. I just know that we cannot continue down this road. If we continue down this road with the expectation that everything is just going to be better miraculously, well, we're fooling ourselves. Now, as a reminder, I will be releasing part 1 of the American Destiny series next weekend. The first part will focus on America's economic destiny, and it kind of goes hand in hand with some of the things I'm going to talk about today. Point is, you don't want to miss it. Make sure you're subscribed to our podcast on any of the platforms that you can think of. We're there. Okay, so let's take a look at this cycle of civilization. And before I do that, and I stumbled upon this, and at some point I'll dive into it a little deeper. But in studying the Roman Empire, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, towards the end of their time, they implemented a welfare system. They provided bread, they gave wages to people who did nothing, and then when these people were called upon to serve, those people refused. Their ambition had been taken away. Their willingness or their desire to step up in defense of the empire had faded into the darkness of allowing the empire to step up for them. And I found that very interesting because of the parallel with America today. The truth is, though, it's not the only parallel. And that's why I want to take a look at the cycles of civilization. I may also refer to them as the stages of the cycle of civilization, but I want to share all 8 if I can get through it today. And then I want to go through them very quickly. I want to tell you what they are, and then I would like to talk about each one. Okay, so that's the plan. Here we go. So the first stage, and I'm taken back to that high school classroom. It's crazy that here I am presenting this to others today. From bondage to spiritual growth. From spiritual growth to great courage. From great courage to liberty or freedom. From liberty to abundance. From abundance to complacency. From complacency to apathy, and from apathy to dependence. And the final stage, from dependence back to bondage. You know, again, I remember this lesson in my high school history class. It shook me to my core all the way back then. And the truth is, it continues to shake me today. Friends, we better wake up. Anyway, let's take a look at the first stage. The first stage is from bondage to spiritual growth. Now, the truth is that nations or civilizations are actually birthed through trials. And these trials require patience and strength. America's no different. It was the desire for our independence that led America to stand in faith to bring freedom, to break away from the chains of great tyranny that had been applied by Great Britain. The same was true for the children of Israel. They had been in bondage some 400 years. And Christendom, as we know it today, came out of the major conflicts as the Roman Empire was on life support. Now, with all of that said, injustices, persecutions, and trials lead people. Ladies and gentlemen, listen. Those things lead people to spiritual growth. I mean, think of us as individuals. You, me, anyone. We always run to God. We always turn to prayer when trouble comes. The truth is, when you're held down for so long and you realize you don't have the ability to set yourself free, well, that leads to spiritual growth. And from spiritual growth, great courage. I'm reminded of the Bible, the scripture that teaches us that those who the Son sets free is free indeed. As individuals grow spiritually, they develop great courage. And that courage is supernatural, and that courage is beyond one's own abilities. Suffering has led to spiritual growth, and that growth has led to a courage that one has not had before. We see this in American history. Held back by the British, the colonists relied on their faith and trust in God, and they developed a courage to take back what rightfully belonged to them. You know, in this stage of great courage, leaders will begin to arise. They'll begin to call others to courage. And they teach that one must sacrifice for the greater good. You see, the cause of the nation or the civilization is seen as greater than the cause of one's own life. Courage leads the nation forward. And there's nothing that nation can't do. The people are united through faith, and they march on for the greater good. The next stage is from great courage to liberty. You know, freedom is found because of those that had the courage to stand up for what they believed. The belief is always bigger than one's own individual beliefs. It's about one nation, well, in America, under God. Not to be divided. Because we realize that our differences don't determine who we are. But rather our faith in the cause keeps us united. I'm reminded of September the 11th, 2001. Politically divided in the country, but united, we stood during those events. We were united because of a cause. In this stage, in the stage of freedom, the country is at its best. Everyone is an American. Everyone believes in the cause of freedom. Virtue and morality led to this moment. And this is the moment where civilizations are at their best. Although good things follow after this stage, ladies and gentlemen, it's all downhill from here. Because from liberty, we go to abundance. And you may say, well, abundance is a good thing. You know, I've often said that America is too blessed. And now that is not to judge or to send an indictment against God that he doesn't know how to correctly pass out his blessings. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that our abundance has led to lives of luxury, and as long as no one messes with our prosperity, we're good to go. That's what happens in this stage. Because freedom will always bring abundance. Because people are at their best, they begin to do their best. Abundance is the blessing, and, well, it's the danger as well. Because it's how we handle abundance that determines what happens next. Unfortunately, America has handled abundance just like the civilizations before us. In abundance, there's nothing to work towards. In abundance, we are simply surrounded by blessing. This can make us lazy, and it also will lead to the next stage. From abundance to complacency. In this stage, our work ethic is replaced with a spirit of satisfaction. In this place, people become less aware of what it took to obtain the good life, and they lose sight of what government is doing or not doing. In this place, it can be determined that everything looks great. So that must mean it is great. Have you ever heard that old saying that says everything is not as it appears? Well, in this stage, the stage of complacency, the warning signs are missed. Virtue begins to disappear and morality comes under attack. Those who see the erosion of values and those who notice the warning signs, well, they're mocked and put to shame. Does this sound familiar to you, ladies and gentlemen? And yet, it gets worse. Because from complacency, we go to apathy. Now, in this stage of apathy, in this place, the ideas, the values, the dreams, and the desires we once had no longer interest us. The truth is, we've lost our drive, we've lost our passion to accomplish those great things. And as we transition from complacency to apathy, the warning signs that once made us pause are now simply dismissed. In this place, patriotism no longer matters. The sacrifices of those that went before us no longer matters. And the understanding that people must work and work together for the common good becomes a thing of the past. In this place, ambition is absent, virtue is mocked, and morality is missing. Government programs begin to provide for families as mothers and fathers fail to do their job. The beginning of dependency can be seen in this stage because the lessons of history are being forgotten. From apathy, we go to dependence. In this stage, we are almost back where we started. Hard work is no longer found. Virtues and morality are gone. That which made us great, it's merely a memory now. In this place, we would rather collect a check than to work for one. In this place, the mainstream is okay with dependence and, in fact, embraces it. Virtue and morality are no longer the solution. But in the eyes of many, virtue and morality are now the problem. This people, who having lived on the sacrifices of others, expect that their way continue to be paid. Government is the only fix now for these folks. And dependence leads us to our final stage. From dependence back to bondage. Ladies and gentlemen, without liberty, without freedom, there is only bondage. In the transitions from dependence to bondage, people grow desperate. They look for a savior. They put their trust in leaders. Because we're now so dependent, we can live no other way but to be bound. This civilization is a dying civilization because people no longer possess the necessary tools to fight back. Those tools are virtue and morality. We lost those tools as we pushed them out of the public place. We failed to teach our children that the greatest of all tools for living are virtue and morality. Ladies and gentlemen, those are the 8 stages in the cycle of civilizations. As I've been talking, many of you have probably been trying to guess, where would America be now? It's a good question. I had that same question years ago in that high school classroom. I'm going to give my thoughts. And I believe in my mind there are 2 possibilities of where we are on this cycle or in this cycle of civilizations. And both possibilities, neither one of them are good. But I feel strongly that we are in the stage of apathy at worst and complacency at best. Now, many of you may ask, can we reverse this course? Well, I would say to that, it's never been done before. Never. But America has done things the world has never seen before. So is it possible? Yes, absolutely. Although I fear it's not likely. Now, biblically, if we would heed the words of 2 Chronicles chapter 7, verse 14, then we can be healed. And if we will learn from the lessons of history, then yes, this can all be reversed. But if we fail to learn the lessons of history, if we fail to learn the lessons, ladies and gentlemen, then just like every other civilization that has went before us, we will be doomed to repeat the lessons that we should have already learned. You're listening to What's Important Now.
If I were the devil, if I were the devil, if I were the prince of darkness, I'd want to engulf the whole world in darkness, and I'd have a third of its real estate and 4/5 of its population, but I wouldn't be happy until I had seized the ripest apple on the tree, thee. So I'd set about, however necessary, to take over the United States. I'd subvert the churches first. I'd begin with a campaign of whispers. With the wisdom of a serpent, I would whisper to you as I whispered to Eve, do as you please. To the young, I would whisper that the Bible is a myth. I would convince them that man created God instead of the other way around. I would confide that what's bad is good and what's good is square. And the old I would teach to pray after me, Our Father, which art in Washington. And then I'd get organized. I'd educate authors in how to make lurid literature exciting so that anything else would appear dull and uninteresting. I'd threaten TV with dirtier movies and vice versa. I'd peddle narcotics to whom I could. I'd sell alcohol to ladies and gentlemen of distinction. I'd tranquilize the rest with pills. If I were the devil, I'd soon have families at war with themselves, churches at war with themselves, and nations at war with themselves, until each in its turn was consumed. And with promises of higher ratings, I'd have mesmerizing media fanning the flames. If I were the devil, I would encourage schools to refine young intellects, but neglect to discipline emotions. Just let those run wild. Until before you knew it, you'd have to have drug-sniffing dogs and metal detectors at every schoolhouse door. Within a decade, I'd have prisons overflowing. I'd have judges promoting pornography. Soon I could evict God from the courthouse, then from the schoolhouse, and then from the houses of Congress. And in his own churches, I would substitute psychology for religion and deify science. I would lure priests and pastors into misusing boys and girls and church money. If I were the devil, I'd make the symbol of Easter an egg and the symbol of Christmas a bottle. If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who wanted until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious. And what'll you bet? I couldn't get whole states to promote gambling as the way to get rich. I would caution against extremes in hard work, in patriotism, in moral conduct. I would convince the young that marriage is old-fashioned, that swinging is more fun, that what you see on TV is the way to be. And thus I could undress you in public, and I could lure you into bed with diseases for which there is no cure. In other words, if I were the devil, I'd just keep right on doing what he's doing. Paul Harvey. Good day.
Welcome to the What's Important Now program. We are fighting for the soul of America and tackling the tough topics. Now let's join your host, international evangelist and veteran radio host, Tom Sears.
Welcome back inside the program. Of course, during the break, that is old audio from Paul Harvey. How dead on that remains. Well, I want to talk to you about something that I'm sure is going to it's going to bring about multiple opinions on this, and I'm going to be brief. With the passing of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the debate now, and by the way, condolences to her family. But the debate is whether or not a new justice should be nominated at this point. And this is where it's going to be, there's going to be a range of opinions here. Okay. So you have, very conservative people that a lot of them believe, yes, let's get a nominee on there. It'll shift the balance of the court. And that is a great thing for America. Obviously, those liberals or those on the left, they say, no, that's not right. You can't do that. And the reason they bring up is because this happened to President Obama, and I believe there were 10 months left of his term at that time. And Senate Leader McConnell had said, no, the American people need to pick a president, and then that president can pick a nominee. And so let me tell you where I'm at on this. And it's such a complicated viewpoint that I have. Number one, I think another conservative justice would be a good thing for America. That's my political ideology, and I know some of you will not agree, and that's fine. I'm not trying to start that argument, because I'm actually going to agree with some of what the left says here, believe it or not. I do not like hypocrisy, and I believe that part of what's wrong in politics in America today is the fact that there's a ton of hypocrisy. So when Mitch McConnell, back with President Obama, refused to push someone through with 10 months left, would it not be hypocritical to go ahead and push that through now with, a month and a half away from the election? So even though Joe Biden could win, I tend to believe that Now, I didn't necessarily think there was anything wrong with President Obama nominating his justice, because that's the role of the president. The problem is Mitch McConnell is showing hypocrisy because now it's a different standard. It's a different standard. Now, his argument is, well, we have a Republican president and a Republican Senate, and so we need to go ahead and make this happen. I'm just giving you something to think about. Is part of the problem in Washington hypocrisy? That we don't really have core values or a firm belief system? We just do what's best for power. Is that the right way of looking at it? You decide. Our email address is what'simportantnowradio@gmail.com. what'simportantnowradio@gmail.com. Our mailing address, 8901 Good Hope Pike, Lost Creek, West Virginia, 26385. Again, as a reminder, we will be dropping the American Destiny series next weekend. Make sure you are subscribed to our podcast. We will begin to profile America's economic destiny as we work through and up to this upcoming election. I want to encourage you, as always, fight the good fight of faith. There is a cause. It does matter, and it is important now. We are fighting for the soul of America. We believe that morals and virtue need to come back to our country. And you, the listener, and me, we can work together to make that happen. But we better start soon, because as we learned today on the cycle of civilizations, wow. We better wake up, right? Okay, I'm done. Again, don't forget to subscribe. Find us on Facebook. Find us on Twitter, Sears Win Radio. We want to hear from you. Don't forget to email, write, whatever. Join the fight here. Join us as we battle for the soul of our country, for virtue and for morality. God bless you. May He keep you. You take care. God bless.